If you've had to downsize your wedding plans over the last year, chances are you've also been brainstorming ways to include friends and family who can't attend in person. Being able to live stream your wedding is a great way to include those faraway loved ones. But how do you actually do that? In this video, I'm sharing my tips and suggestions for how to share your wedding on Facebook Live. Shout out to Brianna for asking this question and inspiring this video. My name is Annabelle Needles and I'm a habitual wonder seeker as well as the video editor behind Evergreen Lane Productions. If you're looking for creative ways to keep your home videos from collecting dust on your camera roll, you're in the right place. All right, so first we're going to talk about the things that you need in order to live stream your wedding. Number one is your smartphone. That's kind of the bare minimum. You could also use a laptop or an iPad, but I find that everybody's got a smartphone. It's just the easiest way to go. Number two, you'll want a tripod. Please do not ask a family member to hold the phone while it's live streaming during the entire ceremony. One, it'll be really distracting for them, and two, it's gonna be shaky and the camera is gonna move around. Your best bet is just to set the camera on a tripod. That way you can hit go live and you won't end up with shaky footage or the camera moving around during the ceremony. You'll also need an internet connection and the Facebook app installed on your phone. I usually have social media apps deleted on my phone because they can be such a time suck, but you can't go live through just the web browser version of Facebook on mobile. So you actually do need to have the standalone app and log into that. I also recommend getting a wireless microphone. Now this is a bit of an investment. Wireless microphones are not very cheap, but I will say that it will make a huge difference. And if you're going to spend money on one thing when it comes to video for your wedding and live streaming your wedding, a microphone is the way to go. I like the Rode Wireless Go system. You can plug it in to your smartphone and I'll link it down in the description below so that you can check it out. Now, lastly, you'll need a guest, like a friend, family member, somebody who's willing to kind of monitor the live stream, make sure everything's running smoothly while you're live. Again, you don't need somebody to hold the camera, but just kind of looking down, monitoring comments, making sure that people can see what's going on, that the connection is good and all of that. Basically, they'd be like tech support or a camera babysitter for you so that you don't find out later that your camera cut out or your internet connection went out 10 minutes into the ceremony and most of the people watching missed the entire thing. All right, now that we've got all the gear covered, let's go over the logistics. I'm going to share some tips with you on how to make sure that your live stream goes smoothly. Tip number one, test your bandwidth. Try to do this beforehand, before the day of your wedding if possible. If you're going to be in a location that you're not familiar with, especially if you're going to be maybe outside at a venue, they might not have great reception. So just check and see what your bandwidth is going to be like at that place so you know ahead of time if you've got enough internet juice to live stream. I like using fast.com to do this, and you can either use your smartphone or even a tablet or laptop. Tip number two is to choose a spot for your tripod. Now you want to choose a spot that's as close to the action as possible and as close to center as possible. The reason I say to try to center your camera is because you want to be able to see, hopefully, both people's facial expressions, particularly during times like reading the vows and exchanging rings. If the camera is far off to the left side or far off to the right side, you're only going to see one person's face, whether that's your face or your partner's. And chances are the people who are watching the live stream are kind of invested in both of you at this point. So you want to try to center the camera so that it captures both of you. However, that being said, you also want to make sure your camera and your tripod are kind of in a discreet location, especially if you have a photographer. They're not going to want to have to work around the tripod in all of their photos. And if you put your camera, front row, center of the aisle, it's probably going to get in their way. So check with your photographer about this. They might have some insight on where would be a good spot, especially if they have experience with your venue and where you're getting married. But if you have seating and you can kind of find a place to put the tripod where it's not in everybody's way and it's not too pronounced in the photos, then that's kind of the ideal. Now, my next tip is to create a Facebook group for all of your guests. This is basically so you don't have to go live on like your personal Facebook like timeline. You can just invite the people who you want to be able to attend into that Facebook group, and then you can go live within that group. And that means that only the people in that group can see it, which is good for privacy and also just having all of the wedding related stuff in one place. Tip number 4 is to fully charge your phone. Live streaming can kind of eat up your battery at times, especially if you've got a wireless mic plugged into your phone. You know, you're kind of asking a lot of it, so you want to make sure that you give it the best possible chance of success by loading up that battery life. A good idea would be to just test the system for the length of your wedding ceremony. So say you know that your wedding is going to be 25 minutes. Set up the phone, plug in your mic, and just go live. Maybe do this in your wedding group before you invite people. That way you can like delete it and remove it before everyone joins. But just run it for that time period, however long your wedding ceremony is going to be, and add on some extra at the front and the end time. So maybe if your wedding is going to be 25 minutes long, test your camera, your phone battery for 35 or 40 minutes of live streaming with the microphone attached. That will just give you peace of mind to know that your phone is not going to just die in the middle of all the action. You could also invest in one of those battery-powered cases. There's like cases that have like built-in extra batteries inside of them. And that way you could have the battery on there as well as the microphone and just give yourself some extra runway. But I always recommend testing your gear beforehand and just make sure that everything's running smoothly. That way you can explain it to the person who's going to be watching the camera and running the live stream, and you just are not trying to like troubleshoot and figure it out on the morning of your wedding. You're definitely going to have other things to focus on. Tip number 5 is to have a backup plan. Usually I would recommend that backup plan just be hit record. If the live stream for whatever working is not working, if your internet is cutting in and out, just open the camera app, hit record, and at the very least, you can upload that video later to the Facebook group, or you can always hand off video footage to an editor like me who can put something together that you can share at either a later reception or online with friends and family. And tip number 6 is to start your live stream a little early. You want to give people a chance to hop on, to join, and if you're hitting go live, like right as you're about to walk down the aisle, maybe people who hop on a few minutes late are going to miss that moment. So I definitely recommend having the person who's watching and running the Facebook Live going live 5 to 10 minutes early to give people a chance who are at home to hop on and catch up. Now, once you've gone live, you've shared your video experience on Facebook with friends and family. Maybe you want to edit that footage together with some photos or other snippets from the day into a DIY wedding video. If you're curious how to make that happen, click the video that's on your screen right now where I walk through all of my tips as a videographer and video editor on how to DIY your wedding video. I'll see you over there.